Welcome back, guys. I'm terrible at this. I have the biggest problem of picking up the camera when I have a mindset that's just ready to tackle things. Unfortunately, in the past couple weeks, I have pretty much done that. I have basically just worked because I don't know if you guys have ever had a situation like this, but probably for like the last 3 months, you know, this build has basically spiraled out of control, and I've bought this and bought that and changed this and changed that, and I basically had a form of maybe what you would call like writer's block, but basically I was having a hard time finding the motivation to actually put the car together and make everything work. I work really well on deadlines, and I'm kind of glad that a deadline finally happened, because in the last couple weeks, I have probably made more progress on the car than I have in 3 months. So with that, I'm gonna kind of just fill you guys in on what's been going on and everything I've been doing, and show you guys what we kind of got left. The car is going to fab on Tuesday, so in like 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, yeah. And my plan is once it comes back, we're gonna fire this thing up. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, quick, hit that button down below. Make sure you turn on the bell notification as well. And don't forget to like this video. I get a good amount of views on my videos, but nobody likes it. And so therefore, I don't end up in the YouTube algorithm. So smash that like button for me. I'd appreciate it. Other than that, let's go ahead and bust into it. So here we go. Got our little helpers today too. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's Cleo and that's Bailey. They're about 2 months, but they've been a good amount of support and help. So here it is, guys. This is pretty much, doesn't look like a whole lot. We do have our turbo mounted, our new G42 1450. We also have our intake manifold here. And if you can see, we have our IGN 1A coils and brackets all on there. So what we're actually going to do today is I'm going to be building some MSD spark plug wires. Basically what I bought was a 4-cylinder, their superconductor 4-cylinder universal plug wire kit. So you can basically just build your own. I went ahead and put all the spark plugs in both sides, and I'll kind of show you guys what these wires come with, how we go about splicing them, crimping them, and everything like that. Basically, I was just waiting on the mounts for the coils to be done. Finally, those are done, so now we can make those. Another thing I've been working on is sensors. So we got like coolant pressure, we got back pressure, which is this line right here. This will run, this black line goes to a back pressure sensor. We have fuel pressure, we have map sensor, and right there is our oil pressure. We also have an oil temperature sensor down in the oil pan down below here. We also went ahead and hooked up our EGTs. There you can see the sensor down there. And pretty much the car is gonna go to fab because we need to pretty much connect this pipe up to the bottom of the turbo there. And we're gonna be rebuilding a new up pipe here. Now, the other thing I've been doing here, you can just see all the spaghetti mess. This is our sensor harness. Pretty much, I've been working on all the wiring. Tons and tons and tons of wiring. Got the second injectors wired, got all the sensors wired. We also are running a turbo speed sensor here. You can't really see, but this plug right here, this is basically like a Hall effect sensor. So it basically measures, or I guess reads every time a blade passes. It's kind of like a magnetic sensor, like a drive shaft speed sensor, or like a wheel speed sensor. Same idea. Now we come over here, and as you can see, we have this is our engine harness. It is 99% done. We got all the injectors, map sensors, AVS sensors, pretty much everything all done here. The only thing we have left is, so these 5 wires here are for the throttle body, which will be this connector right here. Now these guys right here, these are actually some wires. This is the black and blue ones are sensor grounds, and these red ones are 5-volt supply. These ran to our TGVs, and since I am no longer running TGVs, we went ahead and depinned them, and I also have pretty much repurposed the TGV inputs on the Emtron. We have one sensor left to figure out, and that's why this hasn't been finished yet. That one sensor is actually what we call a T-map. So this is a Bosch T-map sensor. This is something that comes on like GM cars. This is a 4-bar T-map sensor. So basically, this is a combination between a map sensor and an IAT sensor. It measures pressure and temperature. The problem is the MAF plug here. This is it coming from the wiring harness. This is like an iWire IAT sensor that uses the MAF. You can do an IAT sensor in here because basically the IAT is just temperature and a sensor ground. So it's only a 2-wire deal. The MAF sensor runs 12 volt and not 5 volt. The T-map sensor runs on 5 volt, not 12 volt. We could use everything else. We could use the pressure, the temperature, the sensor ground, the signal, but the power is the problem. I've been trying to figure out if we even run the T-map sensor and just do like a map sensor with an IAT sensor, or if I can do a T-map sensor plus this IAT sensor. So we actually have like 2 readings in 2 different spots. Haven't quite made up my mind on this one yet. This is gonna be probably something that I can figure out last minute. Man, I feel like I'm going on. There's so much that has happened. So much. This box, roll the B-roll. This is Ballenger Motorsports AFR500C. It is the CAN edition. This is basically a, how would you say it? A very high grade air fuel ratio gauge. The thing about this one is it has tons of different compatibility. Like I said in some previous videos, we plan to run the car on methanol, and the difference between methanol and say gasoline, for instance, as far as AFR goes, gas is probably around like 12:7 stoic ratio. Methanol is probably more in the like 3.8 to 4.5 AFR. And the problem is most O2 sensors don't read that low or have the capability to read, you know, a 3.5, 4.0 AFR. So what we had to do is we actually had to end up going to an NTK sensor, and that would be this sensor right here. I'm not even gonna pull it out because this sensor is actually very expensive. This is like their calibration grade O2 sensor. I thought about going with the cheaper one. Definitely not the lab grade, but NTK sensors are capable of very, very, very low readings and doing it for long periods of time. We are going to figure out what it takes to get this all hooked up I have some things to figure out as far as the CAN network goes, because this supplies everything through CAN bus. We're actually going to tie it into the Emtron and use all of the readings that this supplies in the Emtron as well, so we can actually tune with the data, not just, you know, see the reading on the display here. I actually went ahead and I bought this block right here. So this is what's called the AEMnet CAN bus block. This gives us additional ports for CAN connectors, basically. So because we already are running EGTs here, this is our CAN 2 connector here. This one is coming directly from, one of these is coming directly from the ECU. Now, because I have that tied up, I'm actually gonna plug the ECU one into that bank, and then I will plug the EGTs into that bank, and I will also plug the AFR500 into that bank. So the Emtron can pull whatever it needs as far as CAN bus goes off of that bank there. Super cool. Here we have our relays for our coils. But really, guys, like I said, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that has gone on. But we are actually in the home stretch, believe it or not. I mean, I keep saying that and keep saying that, but the more and more and more I see it come together, the more and more and more excited I am, because there's so much stuff that has gone through my mind as far as this and that, and thinking about things and how am I going to make this work and how can we do it better, and you know, whatever else. And finally, all seeing it come to reality is actually really, really, really awesome. So let's go ahead and bust right into this, and let's build some spark plug wires and hook up a gauge. What we have here is, like I said, this is MSD's 8.5 millimeter superconductor wires. There's the part number 31153, 4-cylinder black. Basically, this is just a universal kit. Sorry about that. Should be fully capable of everything we are trying to do here. Now, what's different about this kit, I guess you could say, is it already comes with some ends on them, which this should be pretty fine for almost any application, to be honest. This kit is super cool because it actually comes with this little piece right here, which actually allows you to not only splice it, but crimp it as well, like in a vise. So super cool that MSD includes something like this. If any of you guys are interested in the IGN-1A coil and bracket for the Corsa Veloz Process West intake manifold, I will have it linked on my website here shortly. The guy who's making the parts for me should have a fresh batch here coming soon. I will go ahead and link it down in the description as well, or at least the link to my website. But I will actually be offering essentially not only spark plug wires for that same kit, but also wiring. I'm gonna be working with Sam at Ballenger Motorsports to actually create a plug and play kit for you guys, where you guys could just buy the mounts, or you guys could buy everything. So stay tuned for that. That is coming. Something I'm super excited about. Something I've also been working on in the background. But we'll just go ahead and bust right into this. Okay, so for this specific kit, we're gonna need these ends for the IGN-1A coils. Now, there's 5 wires in here, 4 of which have these. One's already on the car, and the 5th one comes with this style plug. Now, this is not the style of terminal nor 90 that we are going to be using, so we're actually not going to be using that at all. took this to the car, measured it, and cut it. There's 2 little holes on this piece here. There's an 8mm hole size, and then there's an 8.5mm hole size. We're using the 8.5mm. Basically all we're doing is you're just gonna stick it in there until you get to this little mark here, and then put the razor over the block like that, and then you're just gonna turn the wire, and basically we're cutting into the insulation but not enough to actually hit the wire. Pull your piece of the wire off, and we're using what they call this dual crimp, which is a smaller connector. It comes bent like this, but what we need to do is these little tabs right here at the top, we're just gonna bend these over just a little bit. MSD says make a 90, but I don't like the way it crimps at a 90. Like digs into the wire. So we bend those over a little bit, get those looking like that. And then we're actually probably just gonna go ahead and close up this gap a little bit too. From here, what we wanna do is, you see this piece of the wire that's sticking out, we're just gonna bend this over where it's actually underneath it. And we're gonna crimp it just like that with it bent over like that. So we'll stick it in. MSD says you want about 1/8 of an inch past this edge here. Basically what that 1/8 of an inch actually is roughly the space between this line and this line right here. So from there we'll just stick it in and take our piece and sandwich it together. You want this like little W to be the part that curls the tabs down in. And then as you can see, there's this tab and this tab. These basically just make it sit down in the vise, and you just go ahead and squeeze it with the vise, and that crimps it. Voila. Now, what we want to do is take our little boot here. I put a little bit of WD-40 in there, you know, because dry silicone definitely sucks to work with. And we'll just go ahead and insert our piece. There we go. Yep, slide it in like just like that, and believe it or not, that's a wrap, guys. We've got them all labeled 1 through 4. This will be the end that goes inside the spark plug holes on the motor. And then this will be the end that goes on the IGM 1A coils. Super excited about this. These were actually not all that bad to make. Like I said, if you guys are interested in buying these mounts, I will offer it with a package that will even come with spark plug wires. Should be pretty universal for pretty much every car that runs Course of Laws, Process West intake manifold. So should be pretty much the same setup all the way around. Now, we'll just go ahead and install these, and we're gonna move on to some of this CAN bus stuff. This is the AEM net 4-port CAN hub, I guess you could say. It basically just gives you more ports so that you can plug in more CAN devices. Got to figure out how exactly to wire this real quick. I know there's a power and a ground and a CAN high and a CAN low, but I don't know exactly which pin that is on this specific unit. So I got some connectors, some Deutsch style connectors, yada yada, and gonna go ahead and figure out how to get all this hooked up. I already went ahead and built the CAN jumper harness for the AFR500, which I will show you soon. And the only one we got to figure out now is just from the ETC4, which is our EGT module, to this hub, as well as the plug from the actual ECU itself. Round 2. You may turn it that way a little bit?
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Yeah. Dang. I miss this car. I miss this car.